O Namo Manjo Shri Su Shri Namo O Dama Shri Soha O Namo Manjo Shri Namo So Shri Namo O Dama Shri Soha O Namo Manjo Shri Namo So Shri Namo O Dama Shri Soha Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Junan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Junan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Junan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Judan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Judan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Sange Judan Soge Juna Lai Janju Badu Dandi Gyalsu Ji Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonangi Jola Benje Sange Juba Sho Bege Juje Me Do Zhang Zhi Ra Li Xie Ni De Ken Ba Di Sange Shen Do Me Te Wu Wa Ye Jo Gun Nang Da Xie La Zhi Ba Sho Yi Da Uru Rana Men Da La Kan De Ya Da Ya Mi All sentient beings have been our mothers, and all sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times. They are as kind as our mothers of this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not even want a slight suffering, however, due to not knowing the objects of abandonment and adoption, they create a karma that bring forth the suffering results only. In our mind, sincerely generate loving attitudes towards all mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if all kind mother sentient beings had happiness, excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to have excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we cultivate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from discordant class. May 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from discordant class. I will cause all suffering mother sentient beings, 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
But the ages do not know is needed at time. Choko and the simple normally doing this syllable here on a project that didn't even see about the Sanji Kumbala and Nibame. And Nibal Silla is about the Sanjila Bahini. This in the Tangi in the Sanji Kumbala, which can get over show.
Next, we cultivate bodhicitta toward all mother sentient beings. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all sentient beings all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of all samsara and of lower realms. However, I do not have the ability to do so now. Only those who have achieved the perfect, complete enlightenment have the ability to do so. Understanding this, for the sake of all sentient beings, by all means may I become Buddha.
But is the one in since Tanji the Sanji Kumata Shao, maybe seconds about the Rangini got Daichi goes, the number children choose some Pachino. That you don't get any more with somebody that Rangi say Rochi, the Tantam shall use it. Rangini got Daichi, the Doji cup, it's in the number children choose but you choose Tanji Magic.
Next, we cultivate all-encompassing yoga mind, the aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all sentient beings, may I become Buddha. This transforms into a perfect white mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, that all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence. These transform into a five-point vajra on top of the mundis.
But age is a dog Kumbo that he did that at a country and not to be each to be done, yes, of course, somebody will choose.
Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I neither exist intrinsically one with, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically.
That age is another supposed to be knowledge, sometimes. That didn't ganda Chizeni, Ringala, Nesam was Kandiji Chivaina. The dates our the passenger 20 century about the age of this at the time. He sent you about the generation years at the regime. Don't say the which some of this, don't say the Yavaina, that she will know it. You don't get a position.
To conjoin with the practice of 6 perfections, the first one is generosity. Generosity is mainly about the mind of giving. So for these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on teachings, I give these roots of virtue to all sentient beings.
That age is the 30 there's a point same as in the world. That you want to be doing about that. In that so choosing me to like you want to be doing about some with the Majiba Hong Sakusa. So much on say the Abuji. Except that Vaina is some about to Vaina, then was sitting in it so position.
Next is the practice of morality. And morality is mainly about the minds of abandoning. So for these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest.
That age is also Sibin Yanova. Sibin Yanis or the Maso, Jedam Mutu Simba, Sibi, Siba to the one to Simba. This was a tongue in that so choosing Ringala. You not get recent Kani country. This was a thunder to the chicken, too much chicken Saturday. Some to live in that's the knowledge.
Next is to conjoin with the practice of patience. And patience is about the undisturbed mind. For these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical or mental hardships that occurs, I will willingly accept them.
That is the most interesting knowledge is simple. That's interesting knowledge of the Jalan, interesting of the give a choice and boss to say, procedure. And do as that was some time give a do the single tension, give a do the single tension, singing about two. Two 20 take on that. Choosing the developed too much of a sense something is a digital level. That's interesting knowledge.
And next is the practice of joyous effort. And joyous effort is the enthusiastic mind for virtue. So for these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I remain this enthusiastic mind for this virtue, and also I keep this enthusiastic mind for accomplishing the welfare of sentient beings.
That is Sunday in Siana. That was the dream, Kanda, choosing the Lama, and the chairman, Jishi Karitorina, Rangi Saint, the Villa, near too much. Here, Kanda, and Nangi Legada, the Ungu Legala, so say, Nando, the Naya, the Mandoa, Rangi Saint, the Pena, Zidan chairman, you shut it, and that Karina detail about the need to watch Nisa, the religious song you get to Waina. Say, but then I need to watch Chubaina. That thing is Sunday in Kanda.
Next is to conjoin with the practice of meditative concentration. So for these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever today's topic is, I will place my mind on that without getting distracted by other issues or matters, such as family issues or work issues. And also do not get distracted by conceptual thoughts.
But the Jalaman to Basharat, Pashkin Yanisona, that the Ringan to Jiji in Nende, see that then Kandijina there, Shepherd Leban Jet too much. Shepherd Leban Jet too much is at the Nijits, Leva in attack on the Sheraton.
Next is to conjoin with the practice of wisdom. Whatever today's topic is, I will properly distinguish the words and meanings.
That age is a transition and Sanji, but they to a day to that champion not taking in the second became this in the
Set motivation. For the sake of all sentient beings, may I become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to receive the commentary on Lamrim teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you. That was just a party to win and the Salon Tamba Nanshi. That Nishi Tolama, Tegaro, Salon Tamba Nashin to Bachi. That chip.
Yeah. So we start the sessions with this preliminary practice of conjoining the sessions with the practice of 6 perfections. So we have to make sure these actual sessions is conjoined with the practice of 6 perfections, like what I have mentioned what I have taught just now. Yeah. So this is where we stopped last week. So he's talking about the order to do the meditations.
According to the Toma Gombi Gorin, the Kasiji, the Gorin Chisarua, the Gombi Gorin, Kanda Chile, Toma, Pene Kaya Majibi, Bamashila mutation, Dela Kanda, Jis Chaba, the control super study, the same number to the years, Amu Bama, the same number, do your direction and what?
So the order of meditation, so by which it will easily arise. Initially, take as your object of attention a neutral person who has neither helped nor harmed you and develop an equanimous mind or impartiality through eliminating anger and attachments towards them. So first, you should do the meditations focusing on the neutral person.
Bama de la Kanda, Duton the Tegan, Tamu Bama de la Kanda, Nanji, Bama Siva de la Shencha, Sheda Mebachi, Ye de la Dra, Kanda Tawa de Sheda Mebachi, Kotanu, Maribu, the Tanu, the Hini, that didn't that the Tanu, made us that Corona Kadisan Tangan. That court, Java Terra, Toma Mebani, Amashabalia. Tranji Muchaba, which has Tranji Muchaba. They must done Nazu Pinzia, Mandiba, at the jar, Momuchas. Either that corona dress over the Mundu, the Amamu Shivacharis, Tranji Muchaba Chesaris. The Hajang Pe, Chasing the day, Jebra Mulus, the Kanda, that Mandiba, Momuchas. Indeed, pe chadani ka the pakani, the delalo, pe senyo machine to the Chevres, senyo mach. Pamisa the Korapama, Sinji Dilla Gila Mine, Sinji Gila Samotana, the Kandata, was a JDL, Sevorua, Mama Sinji Gila, very big the Pama Chandala, and the Lord Jet to the Sevorua.
So first, you have to do the meditations to a neutral person. So this neutral person is a neutral person, yeah. So, and it's easier for you to do the meditations in relation to a neutral person first. And once you develop the equanimous mind to a neutral person already, then in later times, then it's easier for you to develop the same attitude towards all neutral persons. So first is to meditate in relation to a neutral person. So neutral persons, or in other words, another way of saying this is a stranger. So a stranger usually is to whom we are not attached, and we also do not have anger towards them as well. So we do not regard them as our enemy. We do not have hatred towards them. So, and what our attitude towards them is this indifferent mind. So neglectful mind or indifferent minds due to ignorance. This is our attitudes towards them. So what should we cultivate? What attitude should we cultivate in relation to them is, so we have to think about, even though they are a stranger, this person is a stranger to me. However, this person has been my mother's and was very kind to me, and have been my mother's for numberless times. So they are very kind to me. And then we also think about this stranger has been my enemy. Also has been my enemies for numberless times. So therefore, to this stranger, I do not need to have hatred toward this neutral person, because this person has been my mother's for numberless times. And I shouldn't attach to this neutral person as well, because this person has harmed me in the past. Therefore, through thinking in this way, we stop attachment and hatred toward this neutral person or a stranger. So by thinking about this, then we achieve the equanimous mind toward this stranger or this neutral person.
That did same money with the Tapa Chapa Chichu won't pay same money of a child of race. But that did in the here is Chibati Sopa, Chadon de Pa, Kani, then the here that you go to Shibanashi. That can't be Hajan Shitaka, Chapa Chibu Mendus, Tuangamala, that Martin got to do Mampu Chatalis. The hat, you know, she pay the Chabat Paka, the Chabat Paka that don't want to live your mother. Down live your mother, they Chabat Paka, they can that they down Moiba, Chaba Moiba, same number. So that we should progress.
So when an equanimous mind toward that person has developed, you then need to develop an equanimous mind toward friends and relatives. So a mind that lacks equanimity towards them is either biased due to attachment and hatred, or lacks equanimity due to a lesser or greater degree of attachment. So different degree of attachment. So first you achieve equanimous mind or impartiality towards neutral. So after you develop the equanimous mind toward neutral persons already, then you develop this equanimous mind toward friends or relatives. So the reason why we do not have an equanimous mind toward this friend is because of attachment and hatred. So we have to stop attachment and hatred toward friends. So in general, we do not have much hatred toward friends or relatives or the beloved one. So however, we do not need to attach to this friend or beloved ones as well, because they're thinking of the same reason as I mentioned just now. In the past, they have been this person has been my enemy and has harmed me or has harmed me before. Therefore, there is no need to attach to them. So by thinking in this way, you stop attachment and hate, and you do not have naturally you do not have much hatred towards them. And by thinking in this way, then you stop attachment towards them. Then you develop an equanimous mind towards this friend or relative.
That is a conduct that she has seen number 2 said this Kandarwa. That is that dollar sing number 2 is that that original. That dollar conduct say number Macha, the same customer conduct down the future of Kiwa. But that down pay future with the chip where we do what it's in the news. And that same dollar can Martin, but not the pay. Dutch and this is dressing it. They call it down series. This is around Lama pay. We are not trying to what the chasers, the paint or shoot chasers. That and that was a much chaser, the garden chimbo should choose us and that cannot say the land chimbo Martin to the meters of where we do something. This is number down at Pacard. The down the Pacard said the same Hershey Chasa or same number Chasa or the mission from this.
Once you are equanimous towards friends, you should then cultivate an equanimous mind towards enemy. The lack of equanimity toward enemy derives from hatred that sees them as totally incompatible with oneself. Yeah. So the reason why we do not have an equanimous mind towards this enemy is mainly because of hatred, and we do not need to have this hatred. We do not need to angry with them, or do not need to have this hatred towards them. Is because even though we regard them as our enemy, it's just because of some small matters. Sometimes over some small matters, then you get angry. You get angry with them. So there is no need to be as angry with them. Is because this enemy that I regard as enemy in this life has been my mother's for numberless times, and he or she has been very kind to me. So think in this way, then we stop hatred toward this enemy, and then we achieve the equanimous mind towards enemy.
That was a conduct in the Tambo Shavana, Bama, Bama, Tambo, Sinji, the Sanatani, Sinji, Sanatani, Tilla Bama, Lope, Chatham, Paris, Richeva, the Chatham, never Palo, no Chasna, Bama, Kazakila, and Chasna, very buggy the Bama Sinji, I knew some shit don't track, 간디지나 때 참마나 생긴 참 해서 아무 길었다 개체 해서 찔러면 밤에 찔러면 지나 밤에 뭐라 다 동자 치면 뭐라 담보 밤에 찔렀으니 하고 누구 차스나 대제를 밤에 니송하나 왔다 기빠 지장에서 누구세 기빠 지자리에 누구다 또 상들에 해서 찌토라 담보 밤마다 생명바지 상로 담바이나 대제스 밤마레레 투디 뜻이 라서 생명보다 지야 디스칼레 카이 해서.
So this is the order of meditation. First, you think about neutral, then you think about friends or relatives, and then the third one is you think about enemy. So first, you think about one neutral person or a stranger, then you achieve equanimous mind toward this stranger without attachment or hatred. Then, so even though in general there are many strangers to us, right? But first, we think about one stranger. Then, after we achieve an equanimous mind toward this stranger, then it's easier for us to develop the same attitude toward other stranger. Then we can extend the same attitude to 2 strangers, 3 strangers, or 4 strangers. So it's easier for us to develop equanimous mind to stranger in this order than in the reverse order. So you think about the stranger in general. So you think about many strangers, then it's more difficult to develop equanimous mind toward strangers in general. So it's easier for us to develop equanimous mind towards stranger by thinking about one stranger first. After you achieve the equanimous mind, then you extend the same attitude toward other strangers. And this applies to the other 2 persons as well, friends and enemy. So after you achieve equanimous mind towards friend by eliminating attachment to the person, to friend, then it's easier. Then you will be easier for you to develop the same equanimous mind toward other friends and relatives. And similarly to enemy as well. So first you think about one enemy. So then you achieve equanimous mind toward this enemy by eliminating hatred toward this enemy. Then it will be easier for you to develop this same equanimous mind toward other enemies. So moreover, Kamalachila's second stages of meditation teaches you to think scenes from their side. So this from their side, so their perspective. So since from their side, all sentient beings are the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, it would be unreasonable for me to benefit some and fail to benefit some. So all sentient beings want happiness. All sentient beings are the same in wanting happiness and not wanting sufferings. So just like human beings. So animal beings, they are the same in wanting happiness and not wanting sufferings as well. Just that they cannot express the want, wanting happiness and not wanting sufferings in words. Otherwise, they are the same in wanting the same thing and not wanting the same thing. So, like for example, a kitten. So when the kittens see human beings approaching it, then it runs away, right? So why it runs away is because they do not want suffering. So what sufferings do they experience? They experience the sufferings of anxiety or fear. So because of not wanting this suffering, that's why they run away. Otherwise, they will not run away and they will come closer to you, right? It's just that they cannot express the sufferings of fear. Otherwise, they are same in not wanting suffering, just like a human being. Similarly, a bird. So if we observe a bird, and sometimes when we go near them, then they fly away, right? So similarly, it's because they do not want suffering. So there's, for example, the sufferings I mentioned just now, sufferings of fear, and similar to ants as well. So sometimes if you use your finger to touch one end, and that end also run away, right? So how to quickly run away. So it's also because of not wanting sufferings as well. So, and similarly, human also do not want suffering and want happiness only. The difference between between the humans and animals is just that one can express and another one cannot express, but they want the same thing.
that 대원 대보다 등의 문제가 지성 수다 같이 생제 가지라베 하자 자체부 지도 정보 쉬고 제네 펜버 두바다 다 가지라베 다즈네베 문디바 쉬고 지 다원 제바이나 다 드는 지금 문도 사다 소도 다 드기 레가 등의 전에 저저시 자원이 지금 문도 사 nyomba 제구에다 기초모레도 사다 두 상당 그래서 그 상당다가 세nyomba 두고 간다.
So it would be unreasonable for me to benefit some whom I consider close, for example, friends and enemies. Then you have high regard for friends and enemies, and harm or fail to benefit others, like enemies, and whom I consider distant. So you do not need to have high regard for some and have some, the hostility toward enemy. So it's not proper to have these attitudes towards them as well. So through the reasoning that we have mentioned just now. So if I were to think about have such hostility or attachment attitude towards them, and it is improper and it is a fault. Thus, it's very important to achieve an equanimous mind towards them.
어디로도 앞에 랑군에는 토모네 반다 간다 고안에 신지 그러와 그 레자 다게니도 맞지만 가야 말이스 그러와 신지 간디나 베랑게 맞지바 가야 말이 그 간안에 차바시 간안에 당와시스 다 지바리 사투 상당브레스와
And sins from my side. So here sins from their side, and here sins from my side. So there is not a single sentient being who in beginningless cyclic existence has not been my companion hundreds of times. So who should I attach to, and who should I agree with?
다 고리 바발도 소마레스 오르와 다 바베 카말라제레 다 간에 니나 차세와데 고모 다와기 저 간다 슈비도레 다 상디데 슈비도레 그치 시고르와 다 니제 체나 탐지세 다자 취지니지 아니베 샤 또바다서 근데 마보 제사리 핀주 핀자데 다세레 마보 제사리스와 간다 제자 제단 대차 제세 앞에 지바지수 송자 다 가실가 하장 차바지 가실라 다원지 이 제부에다 연습해 모두 sama 지바지수 레샤스와 지바지수 레샤스 다가 마체마니 바야 마이야다 지 페이지 세리에 제사리스 송자 앞에서 당고야데 베스 차바지가 차고야데 모두 지바레샤 사투 상당오레스 와
Yeah, so also with regard to attachment to our relatives, the questions of the daughter Chandratara Sutra says, in former times I killed each one of you. I too was slashed and cut into pieces by you. We all have been foes and murderers of each other. How can a mind of attachment arise in you? So similar to the stages of meditations. In Questions of the Daughter Chandratara Sutra also mention the same thing. So we mentions about that there is no need to have attachment towards friends or relatives, and do not need to have anger toward an enemy as well. So why? Because they have, as the persons that are attached to friends or relatives. So even though we regard them as friends or relatives in this life, however, they have they has killed us they kill us in our past lives, or slash us or cut us into pieces. So if we think about this way, so then it eliminates the minds of attachment toward friends or relatives. So similar to the enemies as well. So you just have this equanimous mind toward your friends and your enemy. So there is no need to attach to some, and there is no need to have hostility toward other.
Oh, that is the Kanda. That Kanda image because Shiba Nashi. That Kanda, Drada Ni can be in a Pekanda. Kanda never your Maris Roa. Never your Mari. Mombana, never your Maris, Rangi, Baba. Ama Kazi Kazipe, a child, and never your Maris. Roa. That Nama Pe, Yape, Pins of Pizzi, don't you say the Johnny the Batali Mambo Chesas? Ya Mandiba, Johnny the Batali Mambo Chesaris. Roa. Oh, the Nichets also that. They can't that the Nich so the Tape Namalape, Hajang, Dani, Pamachiba, Mombo Chesare, Mombana, another Data Ni, and the Pamachiba Mombo. You see what is? You see Basuza, that can't that Hajang Pe, Chadanika, Chadang show is shaded, and the Chego Mandu something, same number some of our essay.
So think about the way in which friends and enemies quickly change, as it was explained above in the context of the fault of uncertainty. This will avert both anger and attachment. So previously we talked about the fault of uncertainty, fault of uncertainty also, right? So in the whether they are not certain to be our friends and enemies, or neutral friends or strangers in the future as well. So the fault of uncertainty is they are not certain to be our friends or enemies or strangers in future lives. So for example, the parents whom you attach so much, not necessarily they will be friends or relatives to you in future lives. So because of this, because of the reason they quickly change, because of the reason of changing quickly in the future. Therefore, there is no need to attach to some and have hatred towards them, because they all are the same with the reasoning that I mentioned just now. So by thinking this way, you eliminate the attachment and hatred toward them, and you achieve an equanimous mind.
Oh, that is the Kanda, say no Bashia Kanda, that Dani, Bamasonga Kanda Roa, say no Bodunita Kanda, Chaba the Dawanika. Yes, any don't the same so yes. That is that Dawa needs or the brother needs or it cheating soon, cheating soon. That's what Bello, Nombo Soyagi, she said about the Karsnapa, Missa, you know what it, the data, ne, Bamasua, Missa Yude. That is Missa, you did somebody Dogma, yes, yes, Ponsana, Dickish, this is Pona, not so low Nombo Soyagi. You Ponsa, she said, Yomarwa. Say no more society, she said. There was also Dada near Pamasunga, yes, not so you to share Toyala, yes, yes, nearby the Congress, yes, nearby Yogres, yes, nearby Yoga, so that this nearby Yogore, that this on Susu made the shade, this on a Chadam Shori, she had no depa dog, yes, Chada Shori, Chada Chori, no depa. Depa done, they can chada, Danny Pamasanga, say no more the two. Yes, Loa, must say, the Hamago in the muted, Kidanga to Shendaya, Mipa Dona, in Zimba Doga, I wish you would be Yuri, Kidanga so, yet the sit out one Malibu, that one live that under the or to say, Danny changes on it, and she could the need about the Dogo Maria, that Dada need the Lord Dogo Maria. Rather, Nila meaning Jinsei the courage decision of Chadang Christian. It about the dog, yes, or what is
So we need to distinguish friends from enemies by apprehending them to be the basis of their respective attributes. What is to be seized here is the mind that is biased due to attachment and anger on account of someone being a friend or enemy. The notions of friend and enemy itself doesn't need to be averted. So these paragraphs talks about the need to avert attachment or to eliminate attachment and hatred towards these three groups of these three persons: friend, enemy, and neutral, the neutral person or stranger. So by eliminating attachment and hatred towards these three persons, then we achieve an equanimous mind. So these friend, enemy, and stranger, they are the basis of their respective attributes. So they are the basis or the object of focus. So this object of focus of apprehending them to be friend, enemy, and stranger, this apprehension doesn't need to be eliminated. Yeah, because they are the foundations or they are the basis for us to develop an equanimous mind. So that therefore there is no need to abandon these apprehensions or notions of friends and enemy. So what we need to abandon is the biased thoughts due to attachment and anger. So that is the thing. That is the actual thing to be eliminated. So we eliminate the attachment and hatred towards them, or we eliminate this biased thought due to attachment and hatred towards these three persons. So having abandoned biased thought due to attachment and hatred toward these three persons, then we will achieve an equanimous mind towards these three persons.
That didn't also be some time also. Jadani Chigis in the Shiki, Johnny the Lord Dogmare, Johnny, which is in Chadang research about Lottie Park, Kako, dog, Rese, Dilawara. That and that thing also Chadang just said, Jada near Bamasongala, this nearby the Misuni, was a Lottie Park. No more Chadang research about the Fatoni, the Lord, say the number Sokova. Say number so that this nearby the Misungu, there was Sungu. They was to say Lord Jayala. 다 지나 가서 네 가가다 지나 고야 로하시 지나 가서 차바 제사리 그 유지 스도 하장 송가다와 이나다 가와이나 하장 현자 제사는 유대 미기 마도나 차바 제그만 야 미바도 미도 당번이 지 치부 열스 미현다 그 열스는 소소기 미기 마도바 당번 미도 바빠잖아 미사가 유대 pon잖아 유대라 미기 차바 리그만 차바로 찍어요. 네, 유pan에 또지 유진의 pan으로 간다. 유대 pan에 대해서 미비 차바의 pan으로. 다 드라다고 지나지 하래. 소소 하장 막아서 미 드라데 지나가 자자위나 소소게 미 통사지 내시는 와서 별로 고도도 찍으러 와. 당와 찍으러 와. 당번이네 마토 봐봐. 이잖아. 바 이로 와이나 딜레우나 소소 사자지 바 이로 와이나 예 당와 까 그래서 찍은 말했어요. 어때 지당 미찬 데리다 단다도 로 장하는 게 봐도 미도 송구로와 어때 제바시다 되게 봐도 제바시.
Yeah, here talks about you do not need to eliminate the apprehensions of them being your friends or enemy. So what you have to be eliminated is the biased thoughts due to attachment and hatred towards them. So here in this context, in order to train the mind to achieve an equanimous mind towards them, then you have to regard them as you have to have apprehend them to be the object of focus, and then you train your mind in relation to them in order to achieve an equanimous mind. So, however, this is different from the general context. So in general, we have object of attachment. For example, there are many things to which we develop attachment in shopping malls, for example, in a shop, right? So, in order to not let the attachment to arise, in order not let the attachment to arise, then is we should first we shouldn't we shouldn't see the object. Yeah, we shouldn't see the object. In order to not let the attachment to arise, first we should not see or look at the object. Yeah. So if there is an object of attachment there, so if you do not see your attachment will not arise. So so you first abandon the object of attachment, then attachment will not arise. So that is what it says. That's because you abandon the subjective mind by eliminating the object. Yeah, you eliminate the subjective mind by eliminating the object. So you eliminate the object, you run away from the object of attachment by not looking at it, then your attachment will not arise. So that is what it means by you eliminate the subjective mind by eliminating the object. So similar to an enemy as well. So you run away from the enemy, but you run away from the enemy by not seeing the enemy, your attachment, your hatred will not arise.
다 차당 모두 제사공에서 전에 밤마 성가다 미니 간다 소소를 신용보 루시바야 호지 여바이나 로뇽보지 소투바이나 다 제르페 소소르페 인다 자라버지 시투포 슈부지 안쪽으로 거바이나 제라 간다 다와서 찍고 말이 신용보지 두사로와 어떻게 하장페 소소를 지도 제사게 니자 간디지나 앞에 하장에 내가 잡아슈치 모르바 신용보지 두사리 지토바이나 내가 하장에 잡아슈치 모르지 지도 말이스 신용보지 두사로와 다 간다 가서 신용보지 두마 두비 급지라 때 간다 가서 미유 간디지 바이나 잡 성하다고 지리나 잘라다지 마고 여바이나 당본이네 그 미유데 만도네 미유데 바빠자기 상태나 잡아 지금 말아 잘라다 지금 말아 미유도 pan사로 잡아 지자 미데 로바이나 유데 인지 미지 미다가 로고나 따들라 인지 미지 미다가 미 통차이들라 네버들라 잡아들 리로 와 지금으로 와 그래서 제발 열이야 제발 뭐 열이 다스도 그때 야 내가 슈치고 여기 들이 잡아들 리로 열이 로와 만디바 친구 여기 지지 당와들 로와 어때로 이용바지 아버지 소통바이나 내 간지 토바이나 간다 소소그 세대 nombol로 공부지 장차와 손자 된다야 요거냐.
Yeah. So due to the biased thought, due to biased thought out of attachment, hatred, and ignorance, then we have we do not have this equanimous mind toward friends, enemy, and a stranger. So if we achieve this equanimous mind properly toward friend, enemy, and stranger, then even if we hear the harsh words from enemy, we will not develop hatred towards them because we have already developed the equanimous mind towards the enemy. So, and this is different from a person who hasn't developed an equanimous mind towards friend, enemy, and stranger. So if a person hasn't developed an equanimous mind, then it's important for the practitioner to abandon the object of attachment, for example, or object of hatred. So it's very important to abandon the object of attachment or hatred first, because by abandoning it or by running away from it or by not seeing it, then attachment or hatred will not arise. So if you haven't developed this equanimous mind, and if you see the object of attachment, then attachment will arise. If you see the object of hatred, then hatred will arise. So before you achieve an equanimous mind, it's very important to abandon the object of attachment or hatred. Yeah. So establishing that they all have a likable aspect. So this has 3 points: meditating on them as one's mother, remembering their kindness; and meditating on repaying their kindness.
다 간다마 고야 되지 상호들인도 다 지나가요. 대주 부지 버러지. 랑 배지와 코가 토마면 반이다. 랑 지와 도와 지와야 간다. 많이 봤어요. 저원이 내려다 가더라. 토마랑 배지와야 토마 연말이스. 토마 메와선다 딱 간다. 지와다 시와다 간다. 주마 시대 가서 주마 제바도 내려와. 상산의 배 시제의 제를 만나면 받을 때 지와랑 시시시시시는 딱 가서 간다. luar itu laporan cinta mampu jatuh masuk pada syukur serba, wah tadi cerita kan linda malang sahaja, sahaja jiwa dalam nama manusia sahaja ni yo maris tak ada, wah mewah sahaja tak ada, ni itu anda diri macam mana bang sahaja ni yo maris tak ada, wah macam mana sih kan dia sih macam mana bang, tak malah sebenarnya itu 마지막 자원이 요 말이스 그와 다 마시고 마지 다원 단도 먹어 봐야 서로 하마 제바 이거 뭐 이거는 서로 때다 지와 하니 한 왕과 쓰다 다 하마 지금 뭐 이거です그와 이게 다 진짜 간디기나 이성 방도 그와 진짜 간디기나 서로 마 뭐봐서 그때 지와 체를 토마면 봤는데 지와 단지 못 잡아 선사 근데 마 제바라 단지 못 잡아 다 멍바나 단도 소소에 아니면 지원한 거래. 지원한 것은 단도 파마 무슨 잡아때 지원 단지 못 주는 거지. 그래요. 저는 때 간다 신지단지 간다 소소를 많이 봐. 시비도네. 젠데기 만나시 니바 시비도네. 드리스톤 담보에서 막고 맞아. 이게 단지 다 젠데기 만나시. 드리스톤 담보. 때 마시고 말해서 가는 거야.
So meditating on them as one's mother, in the sutra is taught that since cycle existence is beginningless, our births are also beginningless. Therefore, we have been born and we have died incessantly, so that there is no body in cycle existence that we have not taken, no place where we have not been born, and also no one who has not been a relative such as our mother. So since beginningless time, we have taken a numberless rebirth. So since we have taken numberless rebirth, so there is no such rebirth that there is no such body that we have not taken before. So in other words, we have taken all sorts of forms in the cycle existence. And since we reborn in cycle existence since for numberless times, and sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times as well. So there is not a single sentient being who has not been my mother. And in the future, they will become my mothers as well. So till this life, so we have taken numberless rebirth, and we reach this point through numberless rebirth and death. So we have taken rebirth in the peak of the peak of samsara, and then down to the lowest hell as well. So, and we have taken numberless rebirth in the in samsara in different forms, such as in different forms of the 6 types of sentient beings. So all sentient beings, we have taken numberless rebirth, and all sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times as well. So in the past, they have been our mothers for numberless times, and in the future, they will become my mothers as well. So then you think from this perspective, or from this viewpoint, then you think they are, you meditate on them as one's mothers, just like the mothers of this life. And we talk about beginningless time, right? So beginningless, another way of saying this is there is no beginning. So as this I also mentioned before, to visualize the mothers of this life, to think about the mothers of this life. So this to visualize this mother of this life right in front of us. So this mother, or the mother of this life, not only she is my mother of this life, and she has been my mother for numberless times already. So it's not just this life. This mother also has been my mother's since beginningless time. So therefore, when we say beginningless, in other words of saying this is there is no beginning. So since we have taken numberless rebirth, so even these mothers of this life has been my mother for numberless time. Yeah, so we have to develop a certainty with valid cognitions that the mothers of this life, not only this mother is my mothers of this life, and she has been my mothers for numberless times. So we first develop a certainty with valid cognitions in relation to mothers of this life, that they have not only that they are my mothers in this life, she is my mother since beginning for numberless times as well. So then after you develop this certainty, then you develop this certainty in relation to stranger. So this stranger, other than this stranger not being my mother's in this life, however, this stranger has been my mothers for numberless times. So then, as first you develop certainty in relation to mothers of this life, right? Then later you develop the certainty in relation to stranger, even though this stranger is not my mother in this life. However, this stranger has been my mother for numberless time in the past. Yeah, so after you develop certainty in relation to stranger in this life, that even though even this stranger has been my mothers for numberless times, then you develop certainty in relation to enemy in this life. So even though this person is my enemy in this life, however, this enemy has been my mother's for numberless times. So you develop certainty with valid cognitions that even this enemy has been my mother for numberless times. So first you develop certainty that mother in this life has been my mothers for numberless time in the past. Then you develop the same certainty in relation to enemy in this stranger in this life. Then you develop a certainty in relation to enemy in this life. So after you develop a strong certainty in relation to mothers in this life or a beloved one, the second stranger, and third enemy, then you extend these same recognitions or you do the same meditation in relation to all sentient beings that they have been my mothers for numberless times in the past, and they will be my mother in future lives as well. So if you meditate in this way, that all sentient beings, as they develop these recognitions that all sentient being has been my mothers for beginningless time in the futures as well, then you develop realizations of the first point in the seven cause and effect in one's life, in your mind stream. I will stop here. Then we will continue with doing prayers for the long life, of our beloved teacher, Lama, our root guru. So, who is very kind to all of us. So Rinpoche is will do a surgery. So we'll do a surgery. So from our student side, it's very important to accumulate merits for Rinpoches to quickly free from the manifest sickness, and also for Rinpoche's surgery to be without any obstacles, and also for Rinpoche's to live eons long. So we have this intention in our mind, then we recite the prayers. So if we do so, then the connections between lamas and students, and the commitments, the commitments between lama and students, it will remain pure. So whether one's lama remains lives long or not, it depends on the merits of the students. So if students, from the student side, if students have extensive merits, then lamas will live long. So as is very important for us as a student to accumulate extensive merit. So just like we conclude with the dedications, and we dedicate our roots of virtue to Rinpoche's long life, right? So it's very important to do so, to accumulate the merits and then dedicate the roots of virtue for Rinpoche's long life.
that's some of what is going to square you off. This is some of the cheese.
So with these motivations, we are going to start the prayer. Faye, you will share the prayer, right?
Yes, Faye will share the prayer, and thank you everyone for doing this. as you can see, we are also doing it every day from today. We hope all of you will support us, because as what Geshe-la said, the most pleasing to the Guru is being virtuous. And I also would request all this merit a virtuous collected we offer to our Guru for his speedy recovery. Also, dedicate to LDC for all its future undertaking, so that it can benefit more people. So please do also dedicate to both Guru's long life and healthy and successful surgery and quick recovery, and to LDC for us to doing good work that will make our Guru happy. Thank you.
So with this, we start the prayer. First is Tara. Sorry. First is Tara. Rồi chúng ta đối bài này tôi muốn chịu. Lê truyền ta rê ma tu ta rê yi chi ghê truyền tu rê na wa na lê truyền rô ma nhu la cha zê Om Dare Tu Dare Tu Re So Ha 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 Om Dare Tu Dare